So welcome to this week's Optimal Health Clinic Facebook Live. And firstly, thank you to Marie, who's been covering some of the recent sessions and by the looks of the comments, doing an excellent job. So thank you very much for that. And my apologies, there was no session last week. I'm running, whatever it is, 20 minutes late this week. So I hope the group is not feeling neglected. I appreciate everyone's flexibility. It's just been a particularly intense time in other parts of my my work life recently. So this week, I wanted to talk about getting moving without pushing. So one of the things that becomes a challenge is where we recognize that we need more structure. We recognize that perhaps we've got into some bad habits. We want to cultivate some good and some positive habits. And how do we do that without going into a pattern of ignoring our body and pushing ourselves? And this is particularly challenging for those of us that identify strongly with the achiever subtype, where it's easy to get into a pattern where we just ignore our body and our mind says, right, I'm going to do it. We push on and we do it. And there is a pretty much, there's people say that there are two certains in life, death and taxes. I like to say there's three. There's death, taxes, and parking tickets in London. But the fourth one you could add in is if you try and push your way to recovery, you will crash and you will pay the price for doing that. So how do we set in place structure? How do we challenge ourselves to break habits and cultivate positive habits without doing it in such a way that ends up going into the achiever pattern? So firstly, if you can see it, you don't have to be it. The more awareness we have of this pattern, the more we can see that we're slipping into bad habits. So just being aware of it, looking out for it consciously, if you feel if you're in a phase where you need to put more structure and good habits in place, being really attuned to looking out for the achiever pattern coming in. Also, if we're starting to if we're doing things like bouncing the boundaries and we're starting to deliberately increase our activity, that must come from something real and something solid. So do watch sessions that I've done around pacing, bouncing the boundaries and all of that stuff, because I've covered that in quite a bit of detail in various places there. As I mentioned, one of the challenges here is the achiever pattern is very good at hijacking what we're doing. What might start out as very sensible, appropriate, carefully chosen new goals. Maybe you decided to commit to a meditation practice, you started building up a walking activity, and it's started with the very best of intentions, and it started very mindfully and sensitively. And then you go, a week or two goes by, and you've managed to do it, and in that time, you've made progress. Like things have moved forwards, you felt better in that. Then what happens is your achiever comes in and it goes, hello, I can push myself, even though you weren't pushing yourself. Or it comes in and goes, wow, I've managed to do that walk every day for 5 days. Now I'm going to start doing double the walk. Or you've managed to do it twice in a week, and it's now like, right, I'm going to do it every day. So watch out for the achiever pattern hijacking progress that you make. The other key point that I think is the thing which will help you separate what is cultivating positive habits and what is you putting in place some new goals or direction versus what is the achiever pattern is the difference is if you're doing it the right way, it will feel flexible. If you are doing it from the achiever pattern, it will feel rigid. What I mean by that is from the achiever pattern, on the day that you don't feel so good, it'll force you to do it anyway. The achiever pattern will kind of almost obsess about missing the thing that you've committed to doing. The achiever pattern will measure your recovery by what you do on any one day versus what's actually real and what's going on. If you're doing it in the right way, there's a sensitivity to how you feel. And if on a particular day the feedback is you need to listen and rest, you'll happily listen and rest. If there is evidence that your body is starting to tire, let's say you're on a walk and let's say halfway to where you're trying to get to, you realize you're more depleted than you thought you were. Achiever pattern pushes. If you're listening, you'll go, I'm going to park it there for today, go back, I'm going to bank my progress that I've been making, and I'm going to then listen to where I am tomorrow. So at any point there becomes rigidity, there becomes harshness, there becomes forcing, that is a clue that the achiever pattern is starting to come into the mix. Another piece is any kind of new structure or progress should have what I call fire breaks. If you've got woodland, for example, especially in areas high at risk, they'll have breaks where a fire can't just spread indefinitely. There'll be breaks either of water or of roads, or just a gap between, so it can't just keep on going. And the same is true if you're firing forwards, as it were, knowing that you've got days off or a few days that are booked off where you're absolutely going to listen to your body and let yourself rest. And that is, for any healthy person, it's why there's a weekend. The idea of the weekend is that you decompress, you slow down, you rest, you listen to your body. So when you're moving forwards and you start getting obsessive about missing your walking or missing the thing that you've committed to do, that in of itself is a strong clue that you're not listening to your body and you're trying to force something on your body. And that is almost never helpful. So it's a simple point that I wanted to make this week. I'm really wanting to keep these videos kind of succinct and to a kind of clear point. There is a way to change habits, to get moving, which isn't pushing, which isn't the achiever pattern. The difference is how it feels. If you're pushing, it feels rigid, it feels tight, it feels forceful, it feels controlling. If you're doing it in the right way, it's flexible, it's responsive, it's listening to your body, it's being observant of the environment, it's being flexible to the need of that particular moment. So this may not be the stage, there'll be people watching this that are not at the stage anyway they should be doing this. They're at the stage they need to just decompress and listen and rest. But if you are at the stage you want to change some habits and behaviors, please do be observant of the place from which you are doing that. Hope that's been useful, and I plan to be back again next week, so look forward to talking to you again, hopefully close to 6 o'clock next Wednesday. Thanks for watching.